All right, so for this drawing 15, you should have the top view, like shown, the right side view either here or down here, and then a box for the front view. So this particular drawing is going to show a full section view. So what is a full section view? A full section view is where it's cut the full distance across the object. So in this case, it's going to be cut along the center of this top view right here. So it's like you're taking a knife and slicing it right through that entire object right there. And then you're going to remove this front part right here. So you cut it there, remove that front part so it's like the back half. And then that's what you draw in the front view. Is if you're looking at the front view with that part removed right there. So we're going to cut it right there. And then what does it look like looking at the object at that location? That's what we're going to draw right here. In a full section view, in this particular view, not the whole drawing, but the view, you do not draw hidden lines in a full section view. Okay? You do not draw hidden lines in a full section view. The other views, yes, because those other views are not the full section. This front view right here will be the full section. So we do not draw hidden lines here. Now, a lot of those lines that would normally be hidden lines, like in a normal front view, you'd have hidden lines for this hole, the keyway, those holes right there, right? Those are now going to become solid, because if you were to slice that and remove this front part and look at it, you'd see the corner right there, wouldn't you? So that'd be solid. You'd see the corner back here, the corner there, and all these other ones. And you can kind of see the layout on the handout. See, right there. On the handout, they kind of help you out right there by showing you what that looks like as a section view. All these little angled lines, I'll talk about that in a little bit. But for now, we can start to lay this out and how this would look. You're going to have to transfer lines down and either over or down and over, depending on where your right side view is. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, if I'm looking at this top view, I have this hole. This hole, I'm going to show that by projecting this down right there. And the same with the keyway. If I slice this in half, this little corner right here from the keyway where it meets the circle, that's going to be a solid line because that is an actual edge that you can see if you were to look at it in that location in the middle. So that corner right there, I'm projecting that down, the front view there, and the same with the other part of that keyway. And when I projected those down, it was those 2 points right there, and this forms a little skinny rectangle right here. So if you're trying to visualize this, that little skinny rectangle is this little short line you see right there on that keyway. That little short line right there goes up and down, right? That whole surface. And that's what this rectangle is right here. It's that surface, just like a piece of paper. If you were to hold a piece of paper up and look straight down on it, you'd see a line. And then if you looked at the front of it, you'd see the rectangle. That's what this is. You have the rectangle right there, and there's the line right there. Okay? Now moving along, we have this big circle right here. That's the edge of that circle. We're going to project that down, but it doesn't go down the whole way, so I'm just going to make it short. Don't know exactly where yet, because we have to transfer lines. I just bring that down just a short distance, and that's from this point of that circle right there. If you kind of want to just complete that one little part of it instead of keep projecting all of them down, that's fine. How far this comes down? It comes down to this surface right here. Well, where is this surface? And get that from this right here. So this line on the right side view, so you're either going to project this straight over if your view's down here, or down and over. Right there. You have to try and do your best to visualize how this looks if you were to remove the front part of that and then look at the front view from there. Now, if you look at the handout in your drawing, you can see this surface right here, which is represented by this line right here. That is a little rectangle that sits in here. Where is that located? Well, we're going to take this part right here, this line, because you can see a corner right there. If that were to be sliced in half, that comes down right there. That was that line. And that comes from this line right here on the right side view. That one that dropped down 7/16. Let me erase a little of this just to help you visualize it. Hopefully that's starting to make a little sense, like visually looking at that. It really should help a lot looking at the handout and that little sliced isometric, that 3D drawing there. Hopefully that can help you visualize it quite a bit. Now, just like the big 1.5-inch hole on that left side, these two little 1/2-inch holes are going to be solid, because when you slice this in half, you can see that corner right there. You can see this corner, and same with this hole. You can see that corner, and you can see that corner. And if this were sliced in half, those would be solid lines that you would see at those edges right there. So those are solid edges, but you got to see, okay, where does it go, you know, from where to where? Well, it's going from this surface down to this surface, which on my front view, this section view, is between those lines. Make sure you're accurate with where it's going to and coming from. So those little rectangles right here represent those two 1/2-inch holes. And I went through quite a bit there, so I'll give you a minute. All right, as you all work to get caught up, I'll just darken some of these. We are not done by any means. I'm just going to go through and darken these up. Ooh. Now, when you're labeling this, we still have to do a few more things here, but when you're labeling it, it's going to be slightly different on the front view here where the section view is. The section view will be labeled differently. And it will be labeled section A-A. So same top right side, but then this is section A-A instead of front. Couple more things we still have to do. Now, in the top view, we have to show where this was sliced. So where is this getting cut to show this full section view? Well, that's going to be right here, the full width of the object, left and right, right in the center. But the line we use to show that is called a cutting plane line. It is similar to a center line, but it is different. You draw it instead of the center line in the middle, left and right. So how is it different? Well, first, a cutting plane line has two short dashes in a row instead of one. So like a center line is long dash, short dash, long dash. A cutting plane line showing where this section view is cut is long dash, short dash, short dash, long dash. Okay? So if you already put in your center line, you can kind of change it a little bit, use your erasing shield and make it have two short dashes in a row. That's the first thing. The second thing, there's going to be arrows on it showing the direction we're looking at the object. I'll get to that in just a second, but I'm going to go ahead and draw it in that cutting plane line. Now when you draw it, if you just like a center line, if you can get the short dashes to line up with the vertical ones, great. If not, it's not the end of the world. Just like a center line, those long dashes should be between 3/4 of an inch and 1.5 inches. So it's going to go 1/4 inch past. My long dashes might be a little long, but please still. Oh, I didn't even go and put the two short dashes in. Don't. Wasn't even thinking. But now I do. So, sort of like a center line, two short dashes, two short dashes, two short dashes. Quarter inch past. Here's where it's going to be a little different. Now the ends of them, drew these little 90-degree lines straight up, and those should be about a quarter inch long. We're going to turn these into arrows. Well, the arrows drawn a specific way. So to start, I want you to draw, this comes out a quarter inch and up a quarter inch. This one might be a hair long. Out a quarter inch, up a quarter inch. That's how we're going to start to draw for our arrows. So what we're going to end up having is we're going to have arrows pointing straight up right here. Why straight up? How do you know that they go straight up? It's all about the line of sight, the direction you're actually looking at the object when you slice it in half. Since it's sliced right here and the arrows go up, that means we're looking at the object in this direction. We're looking at the object in this direction, so the front view would be the full section. If this is where we cut it, and if we had the arrows pointing down, well then the back view, which would be up here, would show the full section. That makes sense? So if we had a section line, a cutting plane line, I should say, cutting plane line right here on the front view with arrows pointing to the left, that means the right side view would show that section view. Alternatively, if we had a cutting plane line here, arrows pointing to the right, the left side view would show the section view because it's the direction you're looking at the object when it's cut. Now, for these arrows, like I said, that should be about a quarter inch long. When you draw these arrows, they need to look 3 times longer than they are wide. So basically, when you look at your arrow head, it should clearly look longer than it is wide. So how can you draw that easily? What I like to do, if I'm starting up at the tip, I like to kind of hug the line as I come down, and I just slowly pull it away. Hug the line and slowly pull it away, and that arrowhead should only be 1/8 of an inch long. So it's really small, and it hugs that line. So see how it looks longer than it is wide? It's only about half the length of that little line right there. That's how our arrowhead should look. Start at the tip, hug that line as you come down, and just slowly pull it away. Hug the line and slowly pull it away. And that's your arrowhead. All the arrowheads should look identical. They should be 1/8 of an inch long. They should be 3 times longer than they are wide. Takes a little bit of practice, but when you look at it, just make sure it's not as wide as it is long. Okay? That's all. Part of that cutting plane line is also labels, just like that front view. See how we label it section A-A? Where does the A and A-A come from? It comes from here. We're going to have A, A, A. If we had a second cutting plane line and a second section view, it would say B, section B-B. Since this is only the first one, we're putting an A underneath it. How tall should that be? 1/8 inch. So it should be labeled A, 1/8 inch tall. And that corresponds with this view down here, section A-A. There's one more thing to do, which I'll give everyone a little bit catch up. So make sure the cutting plane line has 2 short dashes, not 1, not 3, 2 short dashes. Good stuff. Hayden, can you hear me now? There's a little bit where I wasn't talking, but okay, the last thing we do on here, we have to show what's called section lines, and you can see those section lines on the handout right here. So on that handout, I'm going to slide this over. So you can see the little lines that are on an angle. That shows a couple things. That shows, it can show the material that's used. So those, how you draw them can change and how they look, which will show different material. Cast iron, you know, aluminum, different things like that. But we're going to put this in all of those solid areas where, again, if you were to visualize that being like a blade slicing through that, anything that's solid that blade would touch needs to have these section lines in its place. So like on this one, that first part on the left, that's all solid there on this whole object. The middle part where there's a hole, that blade would not touch that, right? Because the hole comes back. Same thing with that little keyway, that little rectangle. There'd be nothing there. But this is all solid, that blade would touch. Those 2 holes would not touch that because those curve back. So you do not put those angled section lines in there. And you put them on the end right there as well. Now, a couple things on drawing those. And I'll put them in so you can see them. Those can go either up and to the left or up and to the right. It's up to you. They just needs to stay consistent on that view. They also should line up with one another. So if, let me move this out of the way. So if you have one, let's say in this area here, and if you were to jump across here, but if it were to continue right here, then it should line up with that right there. That makes sense? So like one right here should line up with the rest of it that's down here. Initially, your first section lines should be drawn at a 45-degree angle. They can be 45, 30, or 60. 45 should be your first choice. Something else. They should be drawn at a 45. However, they should not be parallel or perpendicular to another line. So what do I mean? Well, if this object had, let's say, a little corner sliced, if it had a corner sliced right here on a 45, then we could not use 45-degree angle for these lines because it'd be parallel or perpendicular depending which way you went, right? There is a drawing you do that has a 45-degree line and you have to change it up to a 30 or a 60. So you're going to stay consistent with it, and then it can't be parallel or perpendicular. We don't have that problem here. So we can use 45. Now, this is, hopefully you have, it's funny, my triangle does not have this. I have to grab a different one. If you look at your triangle on your 45, you should hopefully have a little line etched on one of the sides on your 45-degree triangle. That will determine your spacing. So these need to be about 1/8 of an inch apart. I'm going to grab a triangle because mine oddly doesn't have that line etched onto it. But how you do it, if I were to start at this corner here and draw the first little section line in right there. What I'm going to do to draw the next one to get the spacing accurate, I'm going to slide my triangle and I'm going to line up this little etched line with that line I just drew. And then I'm going to draw on the next one. And that will give you your spacing automatically. I'm going to go switch triangles and I'll show you. All right, so when you're drawing these, again, you want to think about this cutting plane line. Where is there solid material that it would touch if there were a blade slicing through this? This first part right here is all solid from here to here, so you have section lines in this first rectangle right here. As I showed you, you drew that first line, slide this over, line up the line you just drew with this little line that's etched on your triangle. Hopefully you can see that maybe. And these should be thin and dark. So yeah, this takes a little bit of time. So you should have in your section lines like that, 45-degree angle, 1/8 of an inch apart approximately. You just go based on that line that's etched on your triangle. If you are one of the few unfortunate ones that do not have that line etched, you can exchange it unless you're at home, in which case that would stink. We could probably do an exchange somehow. Okay, so continuing on, as I said, this first part here is solid, so that's how you have that right there. This next part, this is not solid. That's a hole, right? So if you were to slice right here, that blade would not be touching anything on this inside part. So there are no section lines in this area or this area right here. That's all open. This next area, this rectangle here, is for where this line is back here. Well, that line is set back. So as that cutting plane line goes through there, it does not touch it. That still is open right there, right? That's set back. So you do not have section lines in that little rectangle right there. But this next area, this area here, this is all solid right in here. That's all solid material that that cutting plane line touches. So you get your section lines in that entire area right in there. Now I want these to line up. So I'm just going to do this just to keep them going at the right spacing. Sliding my triangle, lining it up each time, the line I drew with the etched line on the triangle. Making sure your triangle is against your parallel bar or T-square so that they can maintain that angle. It's accurate. And the spacing is correct. And here's a case I was talking about where they should line up with one another. I have this one here, which lines up with this down here. I'm going to double check this other one. Oh, just misses it. So as I continue, you'll see where I'm putting these, and I'll explain it more in just a second. But this is all about those areas that are solid that that cutting plane line touches. If there's a section that's set back, it's not solid, well, it's not going to get the section lines in there. These little areas that I'm doing, it would touch, so they're solid. Now, as you work on this, again, as I said, this whole area in here was all solid, so this is solid down here. Those two holes, those arch back, that's open on the inside, so I do not put section lines where those holes are. But in between the holes and to the right of the holes in these areas down here, that's all solid material, so those would have section lines right there. This rectangle right here has no section lines because that's this line right here set back. I know it's that line because if you look at the width of it, it lines up with it. The line is set back here. That's all open space at that height. So there are no section lines right there. Okay, so make sure you have your cutting plane line, 2 short dashes, long dash, 2 short dashes, long dash, arrows pointing up. The entire thing is a 1/4 inch, but the arrow itself is an 1/8 inch. Looks 3 times longer than it is wide, clearly looks longer than the width of it. 1/8 inch tall letters underneath them, A, to match up with the labeling under the front view, section A-A. You have your 45-degree section lines, 1/8 inch apart. Make sure your right side is also labeled just like your top view, and you have all those hidden lines. That right side view, whether it's in this position or turned 90 degrees and down here, you should not have anything wrong with that because it's drawn exactly how it should be on your handout. Okay? So if you have any questions, make sure you let me know. I'm going to stop the video now and let you continue working.